Hey folks, something a little bit different today. This is entirely unscripted. I've just sat down with my morning coffee. Yesterday I went over the Odyssey preview number 1, so I'm just going to go through some of the bits that have been included, talk about how I think they're going to impact the game, and try and get a bit of discussion going in the comments. Now, first off, I did miss the Scaria changes in the last video. Yeah, that was a hell of a fluke. So let's quickly go over that bit, as the Scaria changes are actually pretty significant. Scaria can now be passed along to your colonists and pawns, which means it's no longer a contained disease within the man-hunting animals that come into your territory. Creatures that have a Scaria infection go up roughly the same way that an infected limb does. However, when it hits 100% instead of killing them outright, Scaria makes them become a manhunter. This manhunting rage will not stop until they're either cured of that infection or if they die. So, wounds may actually need removing in the case of a small bite to the toe or something that you cannot get ahead on the percentage of, because it ultimately means at some point you're going to have to put this person down, and getting them down in a safe way is normally pretty difficult. Animals that have Scaria, however, are no longer manhunters all of the time, but once they are triggered and become a manhunter, they can no longer revert to a passive state, much like a human. Also, any animals that are tainted with Scaria have a much higher chance of retaliation, and as well as that, their corpse could go goopy when you kill them, so it hasn't changed dramatically, but it is much more of a threat to your own colonists now. Anyway, let's talk about what we've actually seen and what it includes. So, map features and landmarks. We've already seen some of these new map features and landmarks applied over into the base game, but it looks like we're getting significantly more if you own the DLC. For what they've shown as the example, you've got river confluences and deltas, all different kinds of islands that are splitting the water, so it's more of the stuff that we would have seen from geological landforms. As well as it having geological landform integration, with there being over 85 dynamic map features mentioned, we now also have biome transitions naturally, thanks to mixed biomes, which is going to blend them together onto a single map. I'm curious to see if this works in the multi-directional way that biome transitions does, or if it's going to be more of a straight split. It always used to be quite interesting when you found a tile that bordered maybe 4 biomes and everything kind of creeped in. A bit that I'm curious about from reading this is that it says if you settle on a tropical swamp or forest peninsula with cocoa trees and extra fish, so fish is no longer a resource that is universal across all biomes. Certain biomes are going to be better for fishing by the sound of it in this expansion. Another feature that comes in with the landmark system is quite close to real ruins and parts like that, where now you'll be able to settle on abandoned colonies and rebuild them into your own. This is really interesting from a balance perspective, as one of the problems that I always had with real ruins was the dramatic difference in what you might actually roll on your homeworld. If this is more handcrafted for the DLC, it's less likely that you're going to open up a base that has 40 vanometric cells. There's also the really good visualization here of the differences with how water is working now in cave systems and the like, with the valleys, crevasses, caverns, chasms and hollows. So we're not just getting the nice broad open formations from geological landforms, we're also getting the small, tight, incredibly defensive ones as well. And then there you can see the ancient garrisons, launch sites, chem fuel refineries and warehouses. They can be looted, used as a temporary base or repurposed as a deadly trap for raiders, and they may still have functional security systems. So it's a bit more of a take on what the ancient complexes do, actually building it out into a more fully fledged base instead of something that is just there to grab some loot from. Still not sure on the wording of that, whether you're going to be able to live there permanently, because it does say used as a temporary base or repurposed as a deadly trap for raiders. So it feels like after 4 days this might be one of the sites where raiders start attacking you. Then we have the coverage of the new biomes, and Glow Forests is definitely the one that grabs me the most here. It's always been kind of tricky that the only way you can really play as a darkness-oriented ideology or something along the lines of a tunneler has to be within a mountain. Now that you've got somewhere that's actually got sulfur-choked skies and the world glows in bioluminescence, it seems to be a much more interesting approach to be able to run a myconid or a fungoid colony kind of thing. So you do actually still have some access to natural ground, but everything that you do is a little bit more spore based. This also gives us the first hint as to the name of a new resource we're going to be using. Silocaps, which I'm assuming is the purple mushroom that was in the vial on the waist of the character for the teaser image. It says you're supposed to give it to your colonists if they're complaining about the dark, so it could be a dark vision buff on demand, it could also be a straight mood buff, it could even be another form of chemical recreation. We've yet to see, but I'm curious to find out if they're actually going to start putting effects like dark vision on a consumable. The lava fields area is 100% going to be absolute meme bait for the first month or so. I survived 100 days in the lava field naked brutality start, all that kind of stuff. It's clearly made as a place that you're supposed to set down a grav ship once you've already got a lot of stuff established, so you can nick some resources and flee straight away. However, this does definitely give you access to a very unique type of defense that you can establish if raiders are stupid enough just to try and charge straight through certain things. So who knows, this might make for the ultimate kill box of all kill boxes. The Scarlands seems to be the next natural progression of what happens when you put pollution in the game. Now you've got a biome that is completely consumed by a polluted look rather than just tinged by the clouds on the side. Doesn't really seem like a biome that you're going to be able to actually start in and make any real progress. Water's poisoned, rain is toxic, Scaria is amongst all of the wild animals, so there shouldn't be any way to grow crops here, nor can you fish, and hunting the animals is going to get you minimal meat because most of the time they're going to go desiccated. Who knows? You might just be able to eke out a living here, but I can't imagine it's going to be a particularly comfortable one. This could be a really interesting biome to land and live in though once you've got a functional grav ship with something like hydroponics on. If nothing else, it'll definitely give you a lot of time to scour all of the rooms for the treasure before you head on. Grasslands is a really easy biome to include. Everyone's landed there on regrowth. You always have the weird issue of it's very lush, but there's actually not that many trees to get you started. However, definitely one of the most beginner friendly biomes going. The only thing you're going to have to be very careful of in this biome is that it looks quite dry, so fires are going to spread pretty damn fast. Glacial Plains is an interesting one. It sits somewhere between the tundra and an ice sheet. Don't get me wrong, tundra maps are not easy to survive on. This definitely seems like one of the biomes that's got the biggest hint so far about the new wildlife. You've got mention of mastodons, scimitar cats and great wolves, which I could see in the animal preview. There's definitely a difference between wargs and great wolves. And this biome definitely plays the most into the next thing that we've got with dynamic terrain and weather. Now we've got the combination of a couple of mods. Water can now freeze and rivers can now flood. This is massive. Having these mods supported in base game means there should no longer be very funky interactions with a few other mods on the workshop, because those other mods that it has funky interactions with are now expected to work with what is in the base game. And while talking about that, let's quickly address the elephant in the room. There are always people, every single expansion cycle, who will go, Tynan is stealing ideas. And yes, I know, I've painted you as the loser in this argument because I gave you a silly voice. Mods being picked up by the main developer is not a bad thing. When a mod author no longer needs to support their work because it has become base game, it frees up their time to do other things. Work on other projects, stop having to address comments on the workshop pages, stop having to fix incompatibilities that people are finding with other mods. There's always this weird crusade that Rimworld can only ever have DLCs with completely unique ideas. No. Good games that have large modding communities survive and thrive because the developers are self-aware enough to know when a mod is doing something right. There aren't modders out there that are annoyed that their work has been taken from them. They're thankful that they no longer need to maintain it. They're thankful that their work has been seen as so good that it deserves to go into the base game. Complain all you want about the pricing structure around Rimworld and how expensive the new DLCs can be every time one comes out, but don't try and make out like charging for what we get is extortionate. Work still goes into this. Providing a new platform for modders to work with so that everything is universal and works together Again, it's not a bad thing. Moaning like mad about this stuff is kind of broke bitch behaviour. Anyway, got off topic. Other new weather effects coming in, which you will have already seen if you've been playing with Regrowth for the most part. You've got sandstorms, torrential rain, toxic rain, strong winds, blizzards, blind fog, overcast skies. I think overcast skies is the one that I tend to see the most with Regrowth, where your map kind of looks a little bit foggy for a while, but doesn't really do anything major. Now, some of these weather types are only going to occur in specific biomes. Most notably, toxic rain only occurs in the Scarlands, making it pretty similar to when you get the rain event naturally on a normal tile, but it seems like this can happen much more frequently. And for now, that's it. For the next preview, we're going to be looking at the grav ship and space. As to what we've seen so far, it's about what we would have expected. There's nothing too dramatic in terms of new weather that's being added or new biomes that are being thrown in. I'm genuinely surprised to see the inclusion of flooding and freezing in the game now though. But my thoughts around it are roughly similar to what I was thinking about fishing, in that I'm surprised a mechanic like that is tied behind an expansion. I would have thought including something like that would have had to be a change to the game at its core code. So we are getting a lot more stuff with this expansion filter into every colony. How I'd initially said that I'm wondering if a lot of stuff was just going to be locked behind the grav ship, there's clearly a lot of things that do go back into every single game that you will play. If you're living in a cold biome, stuff will freeze. If you're living in a rainforest, stuff will flood. You don't have to be in space for that to happen. I haven't been able to play Rimworld without regrowth or geological landforms for the longest time now, because base game world generation is unbelievably flat. Now everyone is going to have access to all these interesting and varied places to live, which greatly helps with the longevity of the game and actually encourages you to mix up your playstyle time to time. You don't always end up building the same square in the middle of the map, because you've actually got natural features that you can work with instead. Anyway, this was only supposed to be a quick catch up and I've been rambling far too long. I'm going to finish my coffee, get back to work, and I'll catch up with you guys again soon. As always, massive thanks to those who are supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to do the same, you can do it for just £1 a month. It gets your name in the credits of these videos. And without further ado, wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Take care.